Hi, this is Patty Hodge at Dr. Nurses Rock. Thanks for being here today. This is a video in a series on grief that is ongoing throughout the month of April, and I'm grateful that you've tuned in today to meet Kristin Miller, who is a psychologist in Northern California who's worked for many years as an expert in first aid in trauma, emotional trauma. And I think some of her stories are very important to hear and to learn about this topic. So, welcome to you, Kristin Miller.
Thank you so much. And thank you for welcoming me here. And it's so nice to meet you.
It is nice to
You
meet
know,
you. I'm
you know,
grateful.
one of the things that we all have to understand is that in an immediate loss, oftentimes it'll be the first meeting like we're having today between you and I.
Yes.
And I say that with reverence because it is the first opportunity to come forward and to touch somebody emotionally, to connect. And that's such a beautiful moment because connection is so needed. When somebody loses another being immediately, do you know what I mean? I'm botching my words, but when somebody loses somebody right then,
Mhm.
when we step forward as a caregiver, we're meeting them. When we step forward as a person, as a friend, we're meeting them. We're meeting them maybe in one of the most vulnerable moments that this person has ever had. And so when you do step forward and when we step forward, we meet them, we connect. How are you? How can I be here with you? What are you experiencing? It's not a call to help. It's not what we think would be the right technique. It's meeting, connecting. And that's true with ourselves. When we have a terrible loss, and right there in the moment, we need to meet as long as we're safe. If you're in a war zone and you just had a loss, you don't want to take the time to meet. You want to get out of the situation to safety. But then, as soon as you can, you need to meet yourself, you need to connect. And I love heart breathing for this because you can just put your hand on your chest, one hand on top of the other, and just press in lightly. And you can feel that kinesthetic feeling, that feeling of pressure
Mm.
on your chest, and maybe the warmth if your hands are warm. And I just encourage people to just breathe into that gentle pressure and warmth on the chest, to just connect with your own body and your own heart. And just be present. No change. We're not trying to fix anything. We're just connecting. Because the heart is where most emotions, especially around grief, are processed. It's not our brain, it's in our heart, it's in our own connection because we wouldn't have grief if we didn't love that being
Right.
that has left or the burnt earth that is now scorched. We wouldn't have any reaction. It wouldn't make a difference. So when you have an immediate loss, when we're doing emotional first aid, which is a technical term, it really is showing up, connecting with your friend, connecting with your heart, taking those breaths in, just feeling the pressure of your hands, breathing in, connecting. And then there might be a deeper connection with some emotion. Maybe there's sadness that comes through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe there's anxiety that comes through. And we're just breathing into it. We're just being with it. Like I like to think about this like we're picking up a baby and we're not trying to fix it. We're just connecting. Sometimes you can add a little bit of the butterfly hug where you link your thumbs together and just pat one side on the other. Do you know what I mean? And
Yes.
just like you're patting a baby, but you're connecting, not to the thoughts, but to the felt experience of what is happening in the moment. What just happened to you? How is my body responding? These are such a beautiful time. I'll say it a little differently. This is the opening to connect,
Okay.
to feel together with your friend who might have just had a loss, or a person you don't even know had a loss, or you had a loss. So the connection, that's always the first step. There was something else I was going to say, but I can't remember, so it doesn't matter. It'll come back if it's supposed to.
Well, I
Oh, I
think,
know. I was going to tell you a story.
go ahead.
Okay, so I lovingly got to be on the COVID units during the Delta wave of COVID, when we in our community lost, in 1 month we lost 271 people.
Oh my.
In the hospital was completely in shutdown, and I got to be there for the staff.
So
No
you,
families were allowed in, but I got to be there for the staff. And one of the things that we did, I remember being on the emergency room, and there literally was deceased people all about. And while I was there, the first hour, 4 people died. And so the staff, unbelievable loss and fatigue for the staff. And and we would just press in. And they said, oh, this is positive pressure. All the other pressure is negative. This is positive pressure. And they would connect. And they would take, most times we just had just like a few moments, not even minutes, to just feel positive pressure. And then I watched, because I was on the units for many, many days through that crisis. And they would put their hand on the back of each other in the nurses' station and just press in and just connect for a moment. There's no time to connect more than a moment. Please understand. And it's such a beautiful way of just kind of becoming grounded, coming back to our being
yes.
for just a moment. And I'll tell you what, during that crisis, our emergency workers, the ones that survived the best were the ones that came back from to they were the ones who survived the best. We're a few years out from the immediate risk of the pandemic, the crisis. And so people are settling back in, but so much loss.
Kristen, you've been witness to so much loss.
Yes.
And you've had your own experience with loss, as I have, and everyone else watching, I'm sure, has had some measure of probably even traumatic, very traumatic loss. And has this helped you to do this for yourself? How did you learn to do that for yourself?
Well, I'm very grateful, I have to say, that I've had a long-term practice
Okay.
of heart breathing, of being connected within myself, and long-term practice in what we call energy psychology,
Yes.
Most people know it, the tapping,
Yes.
tapping, but there's lots of techniques within that. So I've had lots and lots of years of practice before that, before I experienced probably the worst loss that I've experienced so far when my daughter passed away about 2.5 years ago, pretty unexpectedly.
I'm so sorry for that loss. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I am very sorry for that loss, and I'm so grateful that I survived that loss.
Yeah.
Because when a loss happens initially, we're given that lovely numbness. Do you know what I mean? That gets through all the details. But for me, and my experience with working with others who've lost a child is that loss is pretty disruptive to our beings. Do you know what I mean? It not only is there the pretty profound grief, just sadness in the most raw sense, like having that being sort of torn out of your life, but also like out of your system when they were so much a part of you.
Mhm.
And of course, now I lose my train of thought, but I'll get back there. Um, do you know what I mean? But that it's so disorientating, and it's so it like scrambled up all of my ideas for a long time, all of my sort of beliefs, um, my beliefs in that spirituality, my beliefs in being a psychologist. Here I'm a trauma therapist for like 35 years, and my daughter was a social worker, and now she's gone, and I'm thinking, oh, nothing works, no ideas work. There's maybe not any kind of divine being. Everything about me is in question. I don't know why it stirred that up for me, but that's been my experience with everybody who's lost a child, being on the other side, um, for so many years. And so when all that scrambling comes, that we talk about the stages of grief, and one of them is feeling like you're going crazy. Um, and actually, those stages are for about the person who is actually dying,
Yes, correct.
and not actually the stages of grief. There's a lot more. Grief is a much more complex thing than what Kubler-Ross's grieving strategy was. But there definitely is a period where you feel like you're going crazy, or I did, and most of my clients did. And it's not usually right at the beginning. Do you know what I mean? When we talked about making the emotional first aid at the beginning, connecting, it's like a little farther down after you've taken care of business, and then your ideas sort of shatter and go apart. And there's this unknowingness that comes in for me and for my clients. Like, what is this? What's happening? How am I ever going to heal? And how what is this? What does this mean about my life and me and the whole bit? All these questions.
I certainly can identify with what you're saying on so many levels. I remember being in New York for 9/11 when it hit. We lived on Long Island. And I remember how that trauma just every minute stays with me. I remember so much of it so clearly. And then the next day, when I walked outside, the world just seemed different. Everything just seemed out of place. I wondered, why was the sun out? And that was a sort of a collective loss. Everybody felt that. That was not just a personal loss. And so I also know as a nurse that biochemical piece that happens that we really don't have much control over. We have this trauma and then our bodies respond in a certain way. And so that whole flood of chemicals also creates some of this disorienting feeling and this fatigue and all those symptoms that people have after severe traumatic loss.
That's
And this little coming back together is saying to the body, okay, you're still here.
right.
Let's be here
Mhm.
and let's try to recover.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
And that is the first way in. Let's recover. Let's be here. Let's sit out on the porch and see, oh yeah, the sun did rise again today. The seasons go on. Life it goes on. I'm still here.
The birds are
And
still
so
singing.
it's the birds are still singing. The leaves will come back on the trees
Yes.
eventually, and it is really about reconnecting because those chemicals that you talk about, at first they do a great job of helping us to shut down emotionally, to become numb. And then they help us to fight and flight and get free as well, to fire us up, and which can, if we stay fired up too long, will become exhausted.
Yes.
And when we have a traumatic death, and even an unexpected death, we go through the numbing at first, those beautiful chemicals that help us to be numb so that we can get through all the details. And then that we have an awakening. And the awakening can be rather abrupt. Your system can go into fight and flight, and you feel like you're um, like crazy. I mean, and I don't mean that in a mean way, but like crazy. Like I remember after my daughter died, I didn't sleep for a year after 4 o'clock in the morning, and I would wake up in this state, like it had just happened,
Yes.
and so what I had to learn to do was connect with that too. So there's the connection at the beginning, and the connection with my beautiful friends, and the connection with nature. And some people continue to have a connection with what they call spirit or God or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And but the connection needs to continue even when you're connecting and you're dead and numb. Do you know what I mean? Like you're a zombie who can't believe that the sun rose. You connect with it.
Yes.
Okay. Sometimes when I'm really, really frozen, do you know what I mean? In that numb state, I'll do the thumping where
Okay.
you thump, you start with your underneath your collarbones and you thump, and then underneath your arms
Yes.
and you thump. It's you can do it with loosely closed fist too. And then right where the V goes, kind of where your breastbone is, your rib cage, excuse me, right there. Okay, to kind of wake up out of that numb state,
Mhm.
and then you tap lightly underneath your eye. Okay, you don't want to thump underneath your eyes, which helps you to ground that awakened energy. I don't know. Do you feel a little bit of an energy return now?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, this is a Donna Eden technique. They call it the four thumps.
Yes.
Um, you can and it's very helpful to, if you're so lethargic and you can't get going. It's really really helpful. Shaking is to shaking it out. But sometimes you're just really grateful that you are pretty numb, because when the emotions start to waken, depending upon the loss, like for me, it was really disorientated because it brought up every way that I was connected in life, and with my beautiful daughter, and there was emotions, and there was anger, and there was sadness, and there was all of these things, like, and sometimes it would come so quickly, and it was so much. It wasn't just sadness, it was all of this. And so I had to learn also how to meet that. Okay. And so when I meet that, that's where I would do a little bit of the heart breathing, which is adapted from heart math.
Yes.
Um, and and then I oftentimes would use the trauma tapping protocol, which was developed by the Peaceful Heart Network. Okay, and it's just a tapping protocol that we meet somatically. We meet the body sensation of the emotion rather than try to restructure how we're holding it cognitively.
Mm-hmm.
And the great thing about trauma tapping is that they have an app. Um, and the app is called Self Help for Trauma,
Okay.
and it's free on any iPhone and or Android phone. Do you know what I mean? And you can download it, and it's in a zillion languages. The Swedes developed this, and so I got to tell you that I use that all the time in practice, but I use that also to meet myself. So when I'm having this uproar of feelings, I put on the app. It's a little cartoon character, and we start
Okay.
and we tap through the points. But I
Yes.
got to tell you about this in the field, okay? Because before the Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology, which I have worked on their resources, had anything public, we had our fire, and I was out in one of the utility camps, and all I had was the app, which is a cartoon character, and these are all utility guys, okay, and they had lost a man in the field, and they were completely in what we call the trauma flu. The nervous system is overcharged. It's firing every which way. Da 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 da. Do you know what I mean? And
Yes.
do you know what I mean? So here's this young, not so young actually, this psychologist who's like airy fairy. Do you know what I mean? Coming in and saying, "Oh, just tap with me here. Download this app." And they're looking at me like I'm crazy. Okay. But I did. I sat with a couple of the crew members who are like they're throwing up. They can hardly look up. They're so shaky they can't, and they're getting ready to go in for the questioning about how this person died on the hill. Do you know what I mean? With the Park Service, and I mean the whole team. And so I'm just tapping with them. We go through the tapping thing, and all of a sudden, these men in 5 minutes, these men went from to they were sitting up straight. They walked in and did their interview, um, and they came out. And I tell you what, everybody downloaded that app on their phone.
I'm sure they did, and I'm sure they were
Okay,
grateful to
and it
have
and it
it.
was just and it is a total evidence-based emotional first aid technique,
Yes.
and it only does one thing. We connect with the somatic, the body level experience of the trauma.
Well, Kristen,
And we
you have,
breathe into that and we tap through these points. So we're only looking at regulating grief,
right.
trauma on a body level. Now, that will change the cognitions. That will change how it's held. But when we're with ourselves, when we're with our friends, we need to just meet them with what is, not try to figure out the whole thing. Just meet our body is just as it is, just like we would pick up that little baby and hug it. Now I'm doing havening. Okay. Also on that trauma app,
Yes.
um, they use havening. The Peaceful Heart Network goes into all the refugee camps all over the world. They have people all over the world, and they use just breath and this havening and tapping. And they've been so successful in training people all over the world to come to meet, connect with themselves, and to calm the grief reaction in this case, the trauma reaction, whatever is happening inside of the body. And it's beautiful. And anybody can learn it. That's what we say. Is anybody at any age can learn this and they can teach it to somebody else.
Yes.
Had moms come in with their 2-year-old, and the mom had just had a significant loss, and they can hardly stand it, and I'm tapping, and the 2-year-old is tapping on the mom
Yeah, that's beautiful.
at 2.
And if the
So
child takes that into their own adulthood and throughout their life, they have
there are
better.
adults, the adulthood, one of the things that I'm the most happiest about all the community outreach I've done is that the fires I'm not happy about, but the fires gave us a chance to go into the school system. And the trauma informed trainers in the school system have brought gentle tapping and heart breathing and emotional regulation skills to all the school counselors here. And most of the teachers have these the self-help for trauma app on their whiteboards, on their pads, and they use it regularly to calm the nervous system.
I will definitely put a link to all of the things that you've talked about today, and anything else that
Great.
you think would be useful for the people who are watching this. I have to say what a gift you are to the world and how grateful I am to have met you and spent some time with you today. And what I do hope is that you'll come back and talk to us again here on Dr. Nurse's Rock and help
Absolutely.
people learn how to take care of themselves, because that's really what we're about here. Anything that's evidence-based and helps people have hope in times when they really might not feel so hopeful, um, and to give them some power to do it for themselves.
Exactly. Hope and agency.
Yes,
You see, if I'm just stuck here in this grief response, that's a pretty awful place to be. But if I can connect and help my emotions move through, you're going to be so far ahead in this journey.
that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Kristen.
All right. Thank you.
We'll see you again, I hope.
I will. Yes.
Bye for now.
Bye bye.